Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the combined Finance and General Purposes and Personnel Committees. Tonight's agenda, first item, apologies for absence. To receive apologies for absence.
I've had apologies from Councillor Humphreys.
Councillor Humphreys is the only one. Did he give us a reason?
He's visiting relatives in Scotland.
Right, so we accept the apology for absence.
Yep.
Declarations of interest. To receive and consider any declarations of interest from members and officers under Section 50 of the Local Government Act 2000, Standing Order 35. This requirement applies only in respect of matters which are to be considered by the Council at this meeting. To declare any disclosable pecuniary interests. Anybody? No. To declare any other interests. Councillor Chappell.
Well, I know that it says when we get onto the Arts Support Fund grant applications that the majority of the participants in the Outdoor Festival of Music and Drama are aged 18 and under. But since my wife regularly participates in it as part of a particular singing group, I want to at least acknowledge the fact by declaring another interest.
Right. We've got the accounts for chat.
Oh, yes,
Are you?
okay.
You're on chat, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you'll need to declare an interest
I'll do that, yes.
for that one.
I forgot.
How with miss?
Isn't that
Okay. Representations from interested parties. Presumably nobody's come forward. Consideration of requests from interested parties. There's nothing to consider then. So we move straight on with minutes of the previous meetings. First of all, Finance and General Purpose Committee. Previous minutes.
On the basis that I either seem to have proposed or seconded every single proposition according to the minutes, perhaps I ought to propose them.
100% record.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
And of those present, which is, there were no absences, so for Finance and General Purposes it was myself, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Peel, Councillor Best and Councillor Glenn. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Lovely, so I can sign those. Where are we tonight? What's the date tonight? 11th, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's that done. And then proposition to approve and sign the minutes of the personnel meeting held on the 9th of May. Present at that were Councillors Sparks, Chesser, Humphreys and Oakes.
I'll second it.
Those in favour of those present?
Not three.
Yep. Mr Humphreys isn't here, so...
Humphreys is not here.
And I wasn't there on the night.
No.
You're in jail again, I expect.
I think I might have been on dear.
I think you were.
Anyway, it's the dead costumes.
Right, so those have been signed off. Financial matters. To consider a progress report from the Head of Finance on his work to verify transactions.
Okay.
Councillor Glenn.
Well, I was asked to do this to check that it's basically to check the checks that you were asked to sign are correct, or see if the systems are in place and see if they're correct. Emma and I checked 2 months of accounts. I think it was April and May, wasn't it, Emma? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looked at various transactions. I didn't just look at accounts paid by check. I looked at direct debits. I looked at things that were paid by credit card or whatever. All the expenses and follow the paper trail back to the root to see if they added up. We found one that didn't. Now that was a cheque for £180.
Overpayment, yeah.
Overpayment for
some
bill of
signage.
108. Now, what's happened there? Have you got that money back?
We've got some more signs being made by the same person for Snipe Meadow. And so obviously, once that invoice comes in,
Okay.
then we...
But it was a little bit of a worry that it wasn't being followed up. Right.
It, I don't know why it wasn't checked when they did the bank reconciliation.
Well, anyway, and then I tried to give Emma some advice or some ideas on tightening up control. First of all petty cash expenses have to be paid, signed by her. They can't pay otherwise. She should see, I think, an initial every invoice as it comes through. It doesn't mean to say you've got to look at every invoice in detail, but if there's something jumps out that's wrong, you can look at it. Whoever is raising those invoices, responsible for those invoices, like the team leaders of the hub, they should be signing and checking their invoices. When they get an invoice, check it against a delivery note. Delivery note should be checked against delivery. So they should be initialed all the way through. Then that's passed to Emma, who, and every now and again, pull that out and check one. So they know that they're being checked. Same with estates matters and so on. And that's about as far as we've got. It all seemed pretty satisfactory. We're doing June tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be a head down and be able to say we've been through the routine before you get the checks to sign. That's it.
Right. Thank you very much, Councillor Glenn. The next item is to receive the balance sheet and budget report for June 2017. Again, over to Councillor Glenn. This came after the pack, so you had it as a separate...
So I've been in Paris, I haven't really looked at
separate
as I'd
email.
like to, but if you look at... has everybody had a look at this report?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. I suppose the good things are the hub, for example, is up on budget taking, so slightly rooms. It's also well down on expenditure, budget expenditure. That's the Fletton House, office costs and the hub, and as a result of that, we're working well within the budget. But how are the budgets calculated? I have no idea. I don't think anybody here has any idea.
I
So-
couldn't work it out today, so
No.
but because Paul wasn't...
So, in a way, it doesn't mean a lot, does it? This is not very helpful, I don't think.
Because I would have assumed that in the first column, it's the 12th, what's in the end.
Well, unless you're
And some are.
expecting, but some you might be expecting
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
some expenditure. That would be an explanation. But I think, to be fair, there should be an explanation of that. Because we're going to be looking at this.
Yes. It needs some notes, I think,
Yes.
attaching to the end of this income and expenditure, just to say why certain things are the way they are, if something is up or down. That would help enormously. I think he probably does a cash flow analysis to work out what will come in when, because some things will be coming in monthly, some weekly, some quarterly, some half yearly, and he may well be working on that basis, so that you won't get the budget figure going up until the quarter or the half year or whatever. But again, without some sort of notes,
No, that's right.
it's difficult to know that.
Yeah.
So it would be handy to have some indication of that from him.
Without that, it doesn't really
Yeah,
mean very
I know.
much. So,
Yeah.
there's another example here. We've got, I know that we're reviewing the nominal codes and so on, but if you look at hub takings, so for year to date, 19,200, sorry, and according to this hub costs are 8,000. Well, that looks like we're making a big profit, or we're not. And Councillor Sparks will take it, run through those accounts, and maybe we're not finished.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll go through those when you're ready.
So I do think we need to make these accounts more useful. Okay, now nitty gritty really, not nitty gritty but detail. I've got the balance sheet here, and comparing it to detailed profit and loss. The profit and loss figure on the balance sheet doesn't match the profit and loss figure on the profit and loss account. Now, there is a summary account where it does match, but they don't match. One of them doesn't. This detailed profit and loss account is not the same as a balance sheet. It's not the same as a summary account. It's not far out, but it begs the question then, how come the trial balance works?
I
It's bigger
I suggested to Malcolm that it might be some more transactions have come in between one being done and one of the others
Probably,
being done, so that they're all slightly at variance. We really ought to
Have a cut-off. And
have a cut-off
everybody
where
is-
we say, right, we do them on date X, the first of the month or the whatever, and so they all interrelate. Otherwise, we're always going to have this problem that the figures are not going to match up.
And there's another check. I looked at, no, I don't want to cast this dispersion your direction, because you did the last lot of accounts, I think, is that correct?
I did what?
Presented the last May.
Yeah, I
accounts.
didn't do these.
No.
No.
But if I look at the year-to-date figures at the end of May, the ones you provided, and then took the change over the counting period, you can add them together or take them apart away, whatever the thing is, and they don't come out the same. They're miles out. In fact, on the previous one, the bank current account didn't exist at all, and now it does on this one. Now, on the May account, under assets, there's no bank current account.
Oh,
Now, okay, people make mistakes, but it makes you wonder how it all balances. If big things like that are missing. So it's a worry. And I think that's all I've got to say.
oh.
Can I just say, we've also, as well as that income and expenditure account, we've also got a summary income and expenditure account, but I don't think that really helps us much. I think we need to sit down and sort out what headings we want. I can see what you're trying to do. You're trying to stop this massive, great
Yeah.
long list of...
I mean,
There's 245 nominal codes. You don't want to end up with 245
when
items.
Paul first gave that one, I didn't feel that that would be
Right,
enough.
yeah.
So I said, I would prefer it, but it was more like
I
that.
see the way it's come.
But the figures
Yeah.
are not the same, unfortunately.
But on both sheets?
The figures on the summary and the figures on the P&L account are not the same. The figures on the summary and the figures on the balance sheet are the same.
Right, I'll need to,
Which is why I think they were
There may
perhaps
be a very
different
simple
dates.
explanation, but without an explanation.
yeah, you need them, yeah, and it's just
Can I just
important.
ask who's going to supply the explanation?
Well, I need to speak to Paul. Paul will be able to give me all the explanations, but because he didn't bring this until Friday afternoon, then he was finished, and then he wasn't in today or yesterday. So I
But I
wasn't
think
able
that
to
if-
ask him.
I think the point is, if there are things that are unexpected, and you know, we're human beings, we're not accountants, we need explanations.
Yeah,
of
for why it
what's
is,
wrong.
yeah. Because I couldn't,
So,
like,
if
once-
you look at many
yeah.
reports, they will have an accountant's explanation,
Yeah.
a paragraph with the things that the questions, answers to questions they may be asked, and that's all we need.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't work the budgets out at all. I had a look at them again today and I couldn't work out why they were written down.
No,
as they
there
were.
may be a very logical explanation, we
Yeah.
just don't know what it is.
And Emma gave me a report why Councillor Glenn is saying he'd hand over to me for the hub report. Clark gave me today a nominal balances list of income and expenditure for the hub. That's not what you've got. I then took that, which is exactly the same numbers, but I laid it out slightly differently in the form of a trading account, and I'm suggesting that this is something that we should have each month to look at so that we see how the hub is performing. And that's that trading account you've got, with sales at the top coming in, and you've got 20,500 near enough of sales. You've got purchases then of around 7,000, just under 7,400. So you can see your purchases account for about a third of your sales
It's 3 months, is it?
for 3 months, yeah. approximately 3 months. It may be including a few days of July. It was at whatever date it was done. The report is dated the 7th, but it won't be right up to the 7th, which is last Friday, I shouldn't think. Because there would be some invoices and things that wouldn't be in at that stage for that period. We need, as you can see, I've made a note, we need the purchasers adjusting for stock. We've asked the girls downstairs to do regular stock takes, especially the most important one is the one at the financial year end of March. And they did one. We just need to adjust year-end figures for stock that we still had in hand at the end, and we also need to be adjusting for opening and closing stocks, and this is an appropriate point to do another stock take. It's the end of a quarter, an appropriate point to adjust your purchases for stock. I mean, we've spent that on stock. It might be it's all sat downstairs in the fridge, in the freezer, in the cupboards, and it's not been used yet. It might be that it's all been consumed and we're wanting to order some more tomorrow. So it doesn't mean an awful lot without the stock adjustments.
Yeah, you're right. And there's an awful difference, if I may say, between dry goods and goods that are going to go off quickly. I don't know what that balance is. I've got a clue. I'm not involved in it.
Right.
But I think I'd like to get my hands dirty on this one, frankly. I think I need to stick my nose in, because obviously if you buy something that will last a year, you don't, if you're going to buy something that's really going to go off in a month, that's a slightly different ball game. If you don't sell it, you have to dump it. Anyway, that's my opinion.
So that then gives us a cost of sales. It reduces the sales figure down to 13,000 then. Then when we take off staffing, you can see we immediately go into a loss situation before we take into account any direct costs or any overheads.
Yep.
So you can see straight away that we've got a problem. We either need to reduce our costs, increase our income, or a combination of both. But we need to do something fairly dramatically. I'm currently been working on it all weekend, working on some break-even analysis to try and work out what hours over the last 3 months, what hours are profitable and what hours are not profitable, so that we know whether we're opening at the right times. And once we've got that, we might be then able to adjust the hours we're open. From that, we might adjust staffing costs. I mean, it might be that staffing goes up if we open more hours. If that's the answer, it might not be. It might be. But we then need to reassess our margins after we've done that. And then we've got these direct costs, and they all seem to be there except the EPOS point of sale system. There should be another £90 there for 3 months of direct debit for the support service on that EPOS till that we've got, which we own. So that then gives us a figure for direct hub costs, which increases the loss. And of course, this doesn't show Fletton House overheads attributable pro rata to the hub. And that is round about 17% of most of the costs of Fletton House need to be added in. And it's 50% of electricity and 50% of waste needs to be added in to, so that will increase the loss even further.
You're probably looking at about 5,000 a quarter.
Cost.
I would have thought so. Electricity.
At least I would have thought,
Yeah.
Which we've obviously got to do something about seriously. We've got to move quickly to reduce this loss. We're working on that at the moment. We're looking at figures at the moment to try and.
There's no marketing or signing costs in there. No staff training either.
No.
Why are we not? I'm sorry. Obviously, I mean,
why aren't we marketing and why aren't we starting?
Well, we haven't had any invoices for those items in this first quarter.
Right.
I mean, as regards marketing, there's stuff going on Facebook on a regular basis, but that's not costing us anything.
Yeah, no, but I mean, look, I know this is probably old news, but you've got a good 50% of the population in this town that are well over 55, 60, let's say 60, let's be generous. Not
I
many
doubt
of those people.
very much as 50%.
Oh, well,
60.
All right, let's say 55.
Should be in the plan, making a plan, should know that information.
But what I'm saying is that those people don't normally read Facebook.
No.
And even include me, and I'm an elderly person, and I don't ever use Facebook.
Yeah, I deliberately don't use it now.
Exactly. I don't use Facebook or Twitter at any time.
I'm deleting them.
So you see, personally, I think we've got to find another way of marketing. I don't think just doing Facebook and Twitter and going on Amble Info is enough. I think you've got to physically do some sort of, advertising in local papers or whatever.
Well, we've got to be very careful that we don't.
You don't want to increase the costs.
No, we don't presume to be in competition with our ratepayers.
No, I can understand that as well. We've got to sort of look at it, but I think we've got to sort of
especially
say,
if we're subsidising this place,
yeah.
which we are.
But that's what I'm saying. We've got to learn not to subsidise this place, haven't we? That's the big problem. We've got to sort of come to a conclusion there. This is a business, and this business cannot be subsidised and be seen to be subsidised. So it's got.
I don't know if it could be seen to be a business. That's the trouble.
You don't think we can sort of do it run it as a business?
We can run it as a business.
We can run it like a business, but we can't call it a business.
No, because then we're in competition.
We can set up a separate company to run the business, can't we?
Well,
As a council, we're allowed to do that.
we went
No,
through.
well, what we might be allowed to do and what would be fair within our position in the town are not the same thing.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just think that, I mean, the problem I see with the hub, and I've voiced this before, as you know, is that if we don't, sorry, David,
No, you carry on.
I just think that if we continue to make, I mean, we're looking at maybe £20,000 loss this year.
At that rate, we
on
are.
those basis,
Yes,
right?
yes.
We can't continue with that.
No.
So we've either got to decide we're going to accept the £20,000 loss. I tinker at the edges, which is what you're thinking about doing, and I understand that, and we talked about that at the meeting the other day. Or we're going to have to close it down.
Well, I took your point, sorry.
No.
David, anyway.
David.
Well,
Councillor Chapel.
Going into
when we set it up, and I don't think we should perhaps lose sight of this, we realised that it would be unrealistic to expect this to be a profit centre, but by the same token, what we wanted to avoid was it being something that ran at a significant loss. A, for the purely financial reason, and B, because if it did, we would be accused of running a subsidised cafe in direct competition with the rest of the town. There's always going to be a bit of a dilemma, therefore, between our approach to this, which is to run it as a community asset, preferably not in competition with the rest of the town, but to run it in such a way that it will broadly break even. And I accept we're still trying to get that balance right, and I still think that probably our pricing is a little lower than it ought to be. But I don't think the pricing is the whole story. Some of it may have to do with staffing costs. After all, that's by far the largest item here, and we have to look carefully at that. But by the same token, you can't run the place without adequate staffing, and you can't run it without adequately paying the staff either, so you've got those issues. One of the things, however, that does worry me is that anybody picking up this, as was observed earlier, would assume that the hub was running at a profit. And that doesn't do anybody any favours. A, it's unrealistic from our point of view. B, it may then look to other enterprises in the town that we're doing what we didn't want to do, which was, in a sense, running and undercutting them. And I can see some advantage, certainly in terms of our own internal figures, if not for public consumption, and I can see a possible issue around it. But you could break down the staff costs between administration, open space and the hub. And instantly you'd start to get a more realistic picture of things if you did. My concern with that is there's probably enough employees in the hub and in administration for it not to be too obvious what people broadly are earning. However, if you actually did the same thing with open space, where essentially you've got 2 employees, that's where it gets more difficult in terms of it being a document that was published outside of these 4 walls. But it seems to me you could have 2 versions of this. One like this, that is the public version, if you like, and one that is for our internal consumption. And if we felt that we could actually, on the public one, show the hub staffing costs, without that being unduly intrusive of the hub staff, then I think we should, because it will actually portray a far more realistic exercise. In terms of that breakdown, to me, if we could get those sets of figures broadly in balance, the thing I'm less worried about is the bit at the bottom, the Fletton House overheads. To some extent, that thing was run to get people across the threshold to make this a community hub. And actually, it's achieving that objective. The problem is it's achieving it at a cost, which ultimately is probably not sustainable. And if in fact, if you went out there and said to the public, this is going to cost you £20,000 a year, are you happy? I'm afraid that the consensus would probably be, no, we're not, because we're subsidising this place, and more people out there pay their council tax than are visiting our facilities. In other words, lots of people who would never dream of coming to our coffee bar would actually be subsidising those who do, who get a good deal.
The staffing figure, sorry to interrupt.
Just raise one other issue, just what I think of it, if I don't, I'll forget it. We are, however, uniquely placed in as much as A, we can use the Oracle itself to continually publicise the hub, and could publicise things like a month's or a quarter's special offer on something. Secondly, we have an electronic notice board right in the heart of the town. I know it's primarily being used to advertise particular functions and things. It seems to me that you could actually also run adverts on there for what we're doing in the hub in terms of cost of soup and a sandwich or something like that. And as long as that pricing is not stupidly under the costs in all the other outlets, I don't see that they've got any great complaint against it, and it might increase the traffic through this building.
Right. Sorry, yes.
Most of the town now thinks that we've got it right. They don't grumble anymore about us being in competition. They know that we've got actually different clientele. There are people who actually don't take coffee anywhere else. We've got our own. So I think that's the thing to encourage as well, the sense that this is a community feel about this, like the yarn bombing did in its way. So I think we could be pushing that more, that sort of some atmosphere a little bit, without being a threat to anybody else.
Right. Councillor Oakes.
I'm simply interested in who actually comes. Now, obviously, because where we are, we're waiting for the surgery. Do people come over here and have a coffee while they're waiting to see their GP? Or have a coffee after they've seen their GP? But mostly, you tend to get spin-offs from the ballet class. So the parents bring their children to the ballet class, linger in and say, well, we've got to stick it for an hour while the girls go skimming around in their leotards, and then come back and we sweep them up and take them home. I'm not quite sure about the throughput at all here. I don't see that the hub is seen necessarily as a place where you'd actually go and eat, if you get my general drift. It's a convenient place for people to just have a cup of coffee and a donut and a biscuit, whilst other things are happening. Now, but can I just say, I've no empirical evidence of what I've just said. I just don't know.
No. It's quite complex. It's quite a complex mixture of different people doing different things.
I think it is.
Councillor Peel.
Two things. I think David's right about the advertising on the board, so it's a very good idea. I think, you know, yes, you're dead right, we can't sort of show too different advice, but I think that would be an idea. It would definitely emphasise the fact that the hub is available during the day, because at the moment, you know, things. The other thing is, you know, talking about the doctor's surgery and people sitting and waiting, I had to go to the doctor's last night, and I got there at 5:10 and had to wait until 26. Is there any way we can talk to the surgery and ask them if they could sort of have a little
Wait for it, paging system.
paging system for in here, say, Mr. Peel, the doctor's now ready for you, or whoever it is. Go back over the surgery and talk to the surgery about it, because that way it would eliminate all those people sitting in the surgery and getting really fed up because they're waiting 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes for see
That's
a
a very
doctor.
good idea.
You know, and they could come in here and have a glass of water if they wanted to, but you know, it would actually maybe generate a little bit more business.
They could, of course, come in, get a takeaway coffee, take it round and sit in the waiting room.
Well, the problem I think with that is that I think the doctor's surgery then might be upset because they'd start leaving cups and things like that in the surgery waiting areas.
Yeah,
because you know what people are like, they just put these coffee cups down and don't think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
One of the problems with that though is sometimes you don't always know when you're going to be called.
No, I know.
That's why it's just a paging system.
And that's why.
No, but you might just be eating something
And
and then they call you.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
Probably
I'm
only
thinking
do it
maybe
for
having a
drinks.
drink,
Yeah.
something like that.
Can't
rather than eating.
see the doctors going for that, because
Yeah, no, I agree.
you go to the doctors when you're unwell, which means you're probably not at your fittest to run round there. When your name gets called out in the hub, by the time you get across there, the doctor could have seen another patient in the time you're
Yeah, you see,
hopping
a lot
across
of
there.
the
That's,
places,
Finishing
everyone
on coffee,
like
or
mine,
No, hang on a minute. You
Councillor
could
Rhodes.
use, yeah, please. You could use the same kind of system they use in the George at Stanford. Basically, you get a bit of equipment, you go in, you pick the piece of equipment up, and it rings like a phone, and it says, you know, you're due up. In other words, the table's free,
Yep.
so therefore you can go. Now, I don't know how much these systems cost. I've never had a look at it, but I think it's just to me, it's an interesting idea.
Can I suggest then that the clerk has a word with the practice manager and see what they think, if they're interested in the idea? If they are, we might sort out what we might have and how it might get paid for between them and us.
Well, I mean, you see,
It would have mutual benefits, so it could be.
What's the benefit for them?
well, they're not got people sitting in there getting fed up and irate. It's not. I mean, let's say I was in there 5:10. My appointment was 20:5. I actually didn't get into the doctor until 6:20. Now, that's for just a standard checkup I was doing, and a lot of people would have to have checkups, you know, if they're diabetics or
I
whatever.
think people should get too excited about being kept waiting for 20 minutes.
Well, I can't stand waiting. You know, I mean, if I book an appointment at 20:5, I expect to be seen at 20:5, not at 20:6.
I think it's just an interesting idea. that
Okay.
needs-
Anyway,
Let's move on
it's a
from
fringe
it.
thing, Malcolm. It's not.
No, that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yes.
Clark's going to
And you're
investigate it. What I was saying about the staffing costs, the only costs we're showing here, we're not showing overhead admin costs in any way, shape or form. Any work done by the admin officer or the estates officer or anybody else, or the clerk, or the finance officer for that matter, in doing anything on behalf of the hub. It's purely team leaders and the 0 hours people, and I think that should be shown as two figures, ideally, two nominal codes there, so that we've got that cost separated so we know how much there is of each. I'll bring up another staffing matter when we're in closed session on staffing matters. We have had another problem, I think, of somebody being paid a wrong amount, I discovered. I meant to tell you about that this morning, but when we finished our meeting, I think you were then in discussions with Karen, so I didn't get a chance to tell you. And I've noticed a couple of things on the number of man hours that we've got, or person hours I suppose is politically correct now, that we've got across the different months in some information that you gave me recently.
The first month, the April month, if you remember, the council agreed, because they hadn't taken their holiday, they were agreed that they would be paid a week's holiday.
Yes.
So that's why that first month is probably more
Right.
than the actual hours that they were doing.
Right.
So that's probably where you may see the discrepancy.
That's part of it. That's a part of it. Yeah. But I'll come on to that in staffing matters because of the fact that is a confidential, commercially sensitive issue. So we'll do that when we're in the closed session. But yes, all we're showing is the actual direct labour cost of persons actually working in the hub. It's the only staffing cost that's shown there. So I think that pretty well covers the hub situation for the time being, I think.
So basically there was 50 shades of grey in there as well.
Yes. And we've got a lot more to do to get this sorted. The next item on the agenda is to approve the quote for the fire safety awareness course of £150 for up to 11 staff.
This is going to be run by John Boyce and Associates, who's done a lot of our fire training setting up, and he basically said for up to 11 staff, which worked out that's what it would be, he was going to charge £100 plus mileage at 45p per mile, which comes in at 150.
Right.
So that's for all of us to attend.
I love the idea for fire awareness. I think I know why fire when I see one.
It's just to know what to do.
No, that's all right. No, that's all right. I'm just being...
Misread it.
I'm misread it. I'm just being...
This is happening, going to happen on Friday.
I second that.
So we need a proposer and a seconder.
I'm up there, yeah.
Those in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah, close.
So we've approved that quote and the training's going ahead on Friday. To consider the grant request from Oundle Festival of Music and Drama. It's in your pack with all their costing information. Do we have any comments from anybody present? Councillor Peel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not sort of going to be worried about sort of, as you know, saying that I won't vote against it, but again, if we go back to the hub, what does Oundle Festival actually bring to the hub for us? If we're going to give them continuous money, which we do every year, which is fair enough, I understand that, but we don't seem to actually have any activities around this area.
We can't.
Why not?
Well, I suppose unless they hire a room office, is that what you mean?
Well, I think,
One of those,
you know, I mean,
because they do it all in the Great Hall.
Yeah, we've got QVH and we've got here as well.
Was this the one we discussed in detail about a year ago when we did actually go back to them, if I remember correctly? Councillor Chappell would probably recall this because he's got contacts with them through his wife.
I think we did actually, you're right.
I believe we went back to them and said, why are you having these in the Great Hall or the chapel or wherever? Why aren't you having them here? And they came back and said because they need to use the grand piano and various other... was it? It was a different... Right, it was a different group.
It's a different group.
Right, same thing
But
applies
it would be
probably.
relevant because we don't have a grand piano.
Yeah, I mean the difference here, I suppose, is this is really about performance. It is generally about children. And whilst there may be no direct benefit, economic benefit to the council, it seems to me that it's one of the things that a council almost exists for, is to promote community spirit, to do things for the young, the old and everybody else in between. That, I suspect, as much as anything, is why we have almost continuously supported this particular event, and it's not a costly event.
No.
So in a sense, in terms of getting value for money out of the publicity, the good publicity that goes with it, it probably does quite well. And of course, the thing that stands out here is that this is the 100th festival, and they want to do something special.
Yes.
So if ever we were going to support it, this would seem to be a particularly good year in which to associate ourselves.
They've been going since 1909, as you say, it's their 100th festival. The cost of their project is 900, they're only asking us for 500, so they're not coming to us for every penny. They're finding some of the funding themselves.
Have we got money in the budget now?
We're at the start of the year, so we've got most of the 10,000 we put in the budget, most of that is still there. So we've got that
I
money.
think it's an absolute, well, what can I say? We have to pile in.
Do I have a proposer?
Oh, definitely.
Can I, before we...
Go on. Yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
carry on the discussion.
One other thing I would say, and again, I'm not being a sports sport,
No.
I will vote for it anyway, but I mean, again, you know, we're trying to get our property used. Now, I'm not saying we have to charge them, but if we've got a drama part of it, surely the Queen Victoria Hall could be used on a free bit, if you like, to help this, and actually pull people into something like that for the benefit of the council in the longer term, as well as Oundle Festival of Music.
You've got two choices here. Do you want to make that a condition of giving them the money, or do you want to
No, I don't think we should
make that as a suggestion that...
What I think we should do is make a strong suggestion that next year that we'd be happy for them to use.
We can't, because we'd have to do it like for all the other charities. That's the problem. We've got to be fair to the other charities that have their
Councillor Best.
special needs.
Okay.
So, I don't understand why the extra special concert doesn't yield extra special ticket sales, and why that shouldn't cover its own costs. To me, the bit that I think we should be more than happy to contribute to are the prizes for the junior speech and drama competitors. To me, that's fine. I don't understand why putting on a special concert doesn't yield special ticket sales and therefore cover its own costs.
Right.
So I'm not entirely comfortable with supporting that, again, when they've got a reasonably healthy year-end reserve. I think it's early in the year, there are going to be other people asking for money. I'd hate to get to later in the year and find we've nothing left for what could be a more deserving cause, but that's just a personal view.
I agree with
And you see, they're eyeing the church for £250–400, so they're not actually getting the church for free. Where, you know, so we could actually say use the QBH.
In a sense, just put a counter argument,
Yes.
which is, first of all, we talk about the size of their reserve, but their reserve is less than 1 year's expenditure, which isn't necessarily what we're going to see on something else in a minute. So I'm not worried about the fact that they've got a reserve. In terms of the additional cost thing, the venue and so on, I mean, yes, they may generate sufficient income to cover all of those costs, but I'm not sure how, because you don't, as far as I can recollect, I don't think you pay to go there, because most of the people who visit tend to be the parents of children who are participating. So they come along and they watch the other children in their things, then they watch their own child and so on. So there's not a huge amount of opportunity to make money out of this from the point of view of the organisation, and whatever they do make, as far as I am aware, and I have no knowledge of the way it's financed or particularly organised. Person we want to ask about that would be former Councillor Ratcliffe, he'll give you chapter and verse. But this is not a sort of quasi-commercial venture by these people in any stretch of the imagination. So I think to apply that is wrong. The other point is, you're very well saying, oh gosh, we're at the beginning of the year, let's be careful what we spend. That actually penalises anybody who wants to apply at this stage of the year for an event for which applying at this stage of the year is appropriate. Otherwise, everybody will just wait till the last minute and think we ought to apply then. We could run into all sorts of issues around that. So I think you just judge this on its merits, and to me, I think that this has ticked most of the boxes.
I'm going to agree.
There are expenses that we probably, or you don't realise, they have to pay expert people to come and judge all their classes, for instance. These people don't do it for free, it's their living. They have to pay their expenses. There's quite a lot
I'm not putting the £500, I'll vote for the £500.
And they do need to have their concerts in venues which have decent acoustics, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't the QVH otherwise go to the Sullivan when they use it?
QVH's not bad, it's all right.
Do we have a proposer? Or do we have an amendment? Or
May I just say, I think we should do two things. I think we should suggest that we propose the money, but look, this is a significant event. You know, 100 years in anybody's lifetime is something significant. And if we were to see not to be supporting it in some kind of positive way, I think that would see us in a very bad light. I'd also suggest that we might consider concessionary costs down at the QVH to encourage them to go there. So I'm opposing it, frankly. I'm quite happy to do so.
do I have a seconder?
Are we voting for all of that?
No. Let's stick with the
Just the
£500.
£500.
Those in
I'm
favour?
opposing it.
Do I have a seconder? Got a seconder. Those in favour?
Absolutely.
Those against? Abstaining? Thank you. And we'll make those comments when we reply to them to tell them they've got the £500. We'll make those comments, the suggestions. The next one on the agenda is grant funding for chat youth counselling.
I better not. Do you want me to say anything about chat?
You say a bit. I've got a bit from Gwen to say, but I want to hear what you've all got to say first.
This was started actually by Anvil Town Council. It was a project of Anvil Town Council to provide counselling in local schools for family problems and bullying, to deal with that kind of thing. And it's quite hard to get money for something to do with children in that sense, because particularly when it's counselling, because you can't go around telling everybody that you're doing counselling with children. You know, there are issues around children's issues. So it's not very easy to get the money. The other thing is that, as we know at the moment, the county council are very much withdrawing money from all children's services. It's been in the news probably yesterday, I think it was. But it is a big threat to the existence of people like Chad, because we have to pay counsellors. That's not...
Can I just add, when I was recently talking with Gwen Radcliffe, who's also involved in chat, she was saying that they'd put in the cost of their project as equivalent to their rent at the courthouse. They've left it at that figure, even though this year they've got slightly better financial situation than they normally have. they're slightly better off, but they have things they need to spend that money on in terms of projects that they're trying to do, so they would still like to stick with that same money. I suggested to former councillor, I should say, Radcliffe, that what we get from chat, and this really is where I think perhaps we need to refer this in part to estates. You might well approve it tonight, but might be a case that the rest of what I'm going to say is an estates matter. That I suggested that for the size of the two minuscule rooms they get in the courthouse, what they're paying in rent, and it's in here as £1,200, is what they pay for accommodation from us, is extremely expensive in terms of per square foot, and we are subsidising the museum, who are only paying a couple of £100 more than that, I believe, for a considerably larger space. And other people have got rooms from us and paying much smaller amounts relative to the size they've got. So I did say I would mention at this meeting, it's entirely up to you, it's up to you how you view it, but I did suggest to Gwen that I would put forward an amendment to that we perhaps reduce their rent to say £500, which would be more realistic for the size area they've got, and we grant them £500. And Gwen said, well, that sounds equally suitable. You know, instead of charge them £1,200 and give them £1,200, it's the same difference. It keeps our numbers lower on income and expenditure, which makes the council appear that it's spending less money, and they're in the same position. I don't know how you feel about that as a proposition.
I'm fine with it. It's not all about money.
Presumably it means it doesn't affect the budget we have to spend on other charities and other donations.
Well, 500 would come out of the charity money instead of 1,200.
Exactly. So there's a benefit there, I think.
It would be a benefit there towards other charities. It also means that we've got less income coming in to the courthouse. That would go down from 1,200 to 500. But we would give out less money as a charity. It would balance for us. So the net amount of difference to us is the same. And as I say, it keeps the numbers tidier. And it's fairer to them, because I think it's morally wrong for an organisation like them that are helping people with a need. Yes. We are, they need that money that they've got for that kind of thing, and we shouldn't be charging them what is an exorbitant rent for the small space they have. Councillor Chappell.
I'm surprised it is an exorbitant rent, because it's been that level for some time, which probably means it was even more exorbitant when it was set, which is odd, because I would have said that it was set on the assumption that it represented broadly a commercial rent at the time. What I don't know off the top of my head is, when would the lease arrangement that they have be due to be looked at ordinarily anyway? Because I have no idea off the top of my head, and I'm looking at the clerk and I think probably as this one's come out of left field.
Yeah, it has.
I think changing the rent during the course of the current tenancy, you can do it. But I'd be more inclined, depending on exactly how long it had to run, to look at perhaps reviewing it at the point at which we would normally be reviewing, either reviewing rent under the arrangement or reviewing the whole thing for a new lease, depending on how far away it is, I can see the attraction because it actually impacts less on our grant budget and is entirely kind of almost cost neutral. And if it is not uncommercial, then fair enough.
I
It
think
doesn't strike me as an awful lot of money to rent space commercially.
Tiny straight.
It may be tiny, but even so, you know, where on earth do you find premises like that where you can rent it that sort of money?
When I did that room rental here for Fletton, and I did the income and expenditure on the courthouse rooms, I think we worked out there that we were making a huge profit out of them, because I think in the 10 months I worked that figure on, I think the expenditure on that pro rata area relative to the cost for the whole building, they came out at about £470, I think, for 10 months. So 500 for the year probably wouldn't be unreasonable. They're paying about what it costs us for that area. When you think what we lose on the museum, where they pay us about £1,400, I think, and or £1,700, something of that order, and the expenditure, I think, on those 10 months was something like about, or for the year, rounding it up for the year, was going to be something like 7,500. You know, we support them enormously. So a charitable organisation like this that's doing good work, if they're giving us enough to pay for the space the cost of the space they're having, and we're slightly in the black rather than in the red, that would, I thought, seem appropriate. I think I'm wanting to put it to estates that we look at all of these items where we've got rents. I mean, we're charging almost peppercorn rents for sports grounds down Occupation Road on very long leases. Then we've got the Joan Strong Centre, where again it's a similar sort of figure to this in the 25-year-old lease. It's obviously gone up over that time, but only by small amounts each year. And we've got other places, and including Volunteer Action. When I did the costing of the area they've got, they as well are paying, we're making a profit out of them, and I don't know whether that's something we morally want to be doing. I mean, getting money from them for the space they've got and being in the black rather than in the red, yes, but do we want to be making a profit out of an organisation like that, especially when we're at the moment subsidising a certain area downstairs?
Can I make a proposal in that case? Could we defer a decision on this? Refer the whole issue, not only specifically this issue, but as you say, perhaps the wider principle to estates, and ask estates to make a recommendation back to finance.
To full council or finance,
and
yes.
then let's look at it again.
Yes.
And if they're due to pay the rent in the intervening period, why don't we just tell them that whilst we're having this discussion, they don't have to pay it?
Can we also check on the length of the lease, the existing
Well, that's
lease?
exactly what I'd like to do. So
Yes.
we have all of that information back for that.
Yeah, we need to go through
Volunteer
this on
action,
all the ones I've just mentioned. I think we need to look at all of them, but
What we
I think
mustn't do, in a sense, is conflate some of these things with the sports clubs, because we're left with a historical legacy
Yes,
in some of these
there's no
sports club things.
Yeah.
They are artificial.
yes,
I don't believe we would subsidise some of them to the extent that we do now,
no.
but we're stuck with it.
Well, we just have with one of them actually. I mean, we've just done 2 of the 3 leases within the last 2 or 3 years.
But there were constraints on how you could, even on renewal, how you could change it. So,
But we've
Yeah.
got, we've got
There is a history, and as David said, we are stuck with
Yes.
the history.
Yeah, we need to look at it in detail, but I think we need to look realistically at whether we are being fair to some of these charitable organisations with what we're charging. So If Councillor Chapel wants to propose that, I'd be happy to second it, unless anybody's got an amendment to it or a counter.
I don't have any amendments. I just think that it's not all about how much it costs. We provide goods and services and all sorts of things. We could decide not to cut the verges and save a lot of money, but people get upset about that. We could decide that we could close chat down because it costs too much, but it's a valuable service. So it's not just about the red line and the black line. It just isn't. These are difficult decisions to make. That's all I have to say on the matter now.
Councillor Chapel, I think, has made a proposition that it goes to estates and the whole matter be resolved. Do I have a seconder?
You do.
Seconded, Councillor Peel.
I mean,
All those in favour? And it's unanimous.
all those, yeah.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Just give me a second to get back to my agenda. That concludes the bit in public. I now need to propose that we close the meeting in view of the special and or confidential nature of the business about to be transacted. It is advisable in the public interest that the public be temporarily excluded, and they are instructed to withdraw Standing Order 3C.
I'll second.
Cheerio.
Although I think actually
Please.
If you'd like to read the proposition, Clerk.
Okay, the proposition is the council through the mayor, head of finance and clerk should undertake a review of its accounting processes.
I'll propose that.
Proposed by Councillor Chapel, seconded Councillor Oates. Those in favour?
Even those that are not supposed to be here voted on that.
And there being, we now come on to any other business for report only. There is no other business unless anybody has anything going around the table. Councillor Chapel, Councillor Best, Councillor Oates, Councillor Chesser, Councillor Peel.
No?
Councillor Glenn, myself, no. I now close the meeting at 9:49.
That was important, that 9:49, wasn't it? You didn't want to go to 9:50, did you?